Hey, Eric Persing here at the Spectrasonics booth at Superbooth. It's your first time, right?
First time at Superbooth. Yeah, very excited.
Oh, it's a great show. You're going to love it. And you're showing something big and new. I mean, this is kind of unusual for you guys.
Yes, it is. It is. And this is kind of the perfect place to show it. It's the very first time we're introducing it. And that is, we have a new version of Omnisphere. That's version 2.5. And has an incredible new feature called hardware synth integration.
Okay.
And so what this is the biggest problem with software synths, as I'm sure you well know, is that you can't touch them and you can't interact with them. And so hardware synths have that immediacy, and it's just a completely different workflow. So the world's kind of always been divided into the software synths versus the hardware synths people, which is kind of ridiculous. And so basically what we're doing is we're bridging the gap. So what Omnisphere 2.5 lets you do in a nutshell is, instead of us making a custom hardware controller for Omnisphere, we're adapting Omnisphere to work with tons of existing hardware synths.
Okay.
And so all of these different hardware synths that you're seeing here are all controlling Omnisphere. So everything you're going to hear me do is coming from Omnisphere. It's not coming from the hardware synth. There's no audio outputs plugged in. And so this is a huge update. And so I'll give you an example of what this is. So over here we've got the Moog Voyager. And so that is a pretty old synth these days. And so here's Omnisphere 2.5. And so everything you're hearing is actually coming from Omnisphere. And so what I'm going to do is, if you're an Omnisphere user, you'll see there's this new HW button here, and you pull that up, and then you select what synth that you want to control Omnisphere with.
Right.
And so now I've got a full control from the Voyager. So this is a very old synth, but all the features of the Voyager are now working in Omnisphere. Obviously cut off things like that, resonance, but I've got all the different oscillator controls. So
you're creating kind of a virtual architecture that matches the hardware synth.
Exactly, that's right. So we've that's the other big thing about this update, is that we've doubled the power of Omnisphere. So we've gone from 2 layers to 4 layers. So we now have, and we've doubled the amount of modulation routing. So there's now 48 modulation routings. We have 50 new oscillator wavetables that are all designed around different synths that we're involved in.
Okay.
And so so it's amazing. So let me show you some of the things that I can do. So now I've got my 4 layers here now. So there's my oscillator 1, and you can see pulse, square, saw, and triangle. And if you look up there on Omnisphere, you can see that as I'm...
neat,
yeah.
Okay.
So I can completely build a sound. The glide,
That's a really interesting idea. I mean, it seems kind of like a weird way around, but it may, I mean, because we've all done it, where we've been looking for that perfect controller for our soft synth.
Right.
And you've
exactly.
something knobby that you have, and you go, yeah, that works, but it only works for certain things. I mean,
but here it's the actual controls, and everything works on the synth. So it's already a great layout, and it's a wonderful experience using it. But if you could have that with all the features of Omnisphere, that's like a whole different thing, right? Because we can do things that you can't do in the Voyager. So for instance, so I'll take this sound, and then now I can play chords, right? Because it's a polyphonic synth. So, and I've got things like on the external, it makes more sense to use that to control effects. So. up some.
That's pretty neat. I mean, I guess it can't interrogate the synth to find out what the current parameters are, because we don't have that yet in MIDI 1.0, do we? But
so it's very sophisticated, like what's going on. The controls, it's much more than regular MIDI learn. Each one of these is like custom created. Every control is created, and each synth profile is different too. So for instance, one of the things that's super fun on the Voyager, let me just take that sound. I've got to bring a little noise in there. Okay, so that's pretty nice, but let's check this out. We'll go to the orb, and we have that being controlled from the touch plate on, which is hardly ever used on the Moog.
right, that's neat.
And it just works, you know, it's as simple as that. So so that's very, very powerful. And the other thing is that when you call up the hardware profile, it calls up our brand new hardware library. And so each of the profiles comes with sounds we've created using these profiles. So it's also a huge sound library update, and
okay.
all of all the sounds were created using these profiles. And anyone can use them. You don't have to have the hardware.
It must make, the sound design aspect of it, because the Omnisphere is a fantastic synthesizer, but it's hugely deep.
It's very deep. It's very deep. There's a lot of features, but being able to control it with a hands-on thing is a lot more interesting. So, for instance, I'll take so these are patches for the Voyager. So I've got this one that's kind of like a really neat.
Yeah, so every single one was custom made.
Oh, nice.
Or, you know, kind of a.
I can feel the wind from that one.
Yeah. And another thing that's really cool about the Voyager is that it has the spacing filters. And so Omnisphere has that. So if you have a high resonance setting and you move the spacing, you get that kind of neat vowel-y kind of sound.
So yeah, right, you're moving between the peaks, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine it must be really hard to get on with any work at your place when you're working on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
the nice thing is you can just save. You know, you can save when you get a sound. So anyway, so we go from something from the year 2000, which is now vintage.
Yes, I guess it is.
I guess it is. And then now let's go to something completely modern, which is the Roland System 8. So we'll select that.
So that's now a hardware. That's now just a hardware profile for this synth.
Yeah, exactly. And then so now we have this layout, and we've got a whole different vibe going. So we're not trying to emulate each of these instruments, but we're getting the flavor of it.
I mean, you could think of this two ways. It's one, yeah, your synth's great. I love the GUI, but I think the sound engine sucks. You should use ours instead.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So we won't get into that for political reasons, since I'm playing a Roland. But so, for instance, yeah, on this one, like we've got. I'll go to.
Although I have to say, the System 8 is actually a really good.
It's really nice. Yeah, it's excellent. So I've got, if I select the. It comes with the System 8 Super Saw, so you can get that kind of classic, you know. You have control of all the effects. you've got all,
That's classic Mr. Persing there, I think. Lovely sound.
and then you've got all the different kind of filters too, so you can change.
Right, so you go in that deep? Okay.
Oh yeah, extremely deep.
I mean, how many synths have you actually modeled? Because, I mean, that must be a lot of work, right?
Again, it's not modeling. It's just it's mainly like creating the profiles.
Mapped,
yeah. So it'll be coming with more than 20, and then we're going to be adding till the cows come home.
And that actually makes a lot of sense because it means you could just do another iterative upgrade with
exactly
a new bunch of sounds, a new synth.
Exactly. Like for example, we'll be adding the Prophet X. That'll be one of the ones that we'll be supporting.
Yeah.
And so you'll have all full control of Omnisphere for the Prophet X.
Neat.
And you have it from the OB6. And yeah, so it's
okay.
really, really
I got
powerful.
a question. How the hell did you get all of these synths to hook up to the to this, or are you just doing them in pairs?
Just USB.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So just
yeah. And yeah, and again, so everything you're hearing is coming from Omnisphere.
Yeah.
It's not coming from the synths. But yeah, and then so each one has like unique special features. So for it, we can have the vowel filter, for example, and or the pitch envelopes.
The
here.
delay llama once again. That's lovely.
Actually, it is. Those guys made that filter for us. And so,
so it feels like, I mean, and it looks like you've sort of dealt with the scaling and the kind of that
Yeah.
the parameter scale.
Exactly.
They call it control law, I believe, in the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a really big deal. So in fact, so let's go over to. I'll show you on the Sub 37 profile, and this one is really one of my favorites. So it's mapped great, and of course, you know, one of the things that's great about the Sub 37 is the multi-drive, and that's kind of its, you know, the Sub 37, Subscript 37 is having that amazing distortion. So we have a really great version of that.
I asked you, did you clean it up a little bit so you could play more than one note without it breaking up? Yeah, I mean, that's sounding pretty familiar to me.
So, okay, so let me show you how deep this goes with the mapping. So what I'm going to do is I have the Sub 37 template loaded, but I'm going to initialize the multi. And so this is just going to come up with like the standard Omnisphere sawtooth wave. So nothing is, all the controls are mapped, but there's no special, everything's kind of zeroed out. Yeah. So for instance, so when I touch the cutoff, you'll see here the filter turns on. When I change the filter type, you know, it changes the filter type here.
Right. So it seems like it's quite a lot of work, but you only do it once.
Yeah, exactly. And then let's look at the effects rack. So the effects are completely blank right now. And what I want to do is now when I touch the multi-drive, see if you can see both the multi-drive knob and this. So watch when I touch this. So it actually instantiated the effect. So it went from a blank effects rack. It opened up one of our Vox amp emulations, and then when you go to the bottom of the control, it bypasses.
Right. So it's kind of DSP. It's CPU friendly as well. So yeah.
Exactly. And then when you control it, you see the level knob goes up, the master knob goes down.
So you basically you're mapping
every single So, and if I was to open up that effect just on its own in Omnisphere, like I'll just open up that by itself, and it sounds like this. It sounds completely different because all the parameters are learned, even the speaker modeling and everything is learned to this knob.
Right.
So
Okay.
you don't, the end user doesn't have to think about it. You just move the
yeah,
knob.
I guess that's the advantage of using your own engine is you can create you'll effectively create your own
Exactly.
macros, your own mappings, all of that stuff. Right.
So that's an existing effect, but the drive circuit is really great, and so it sounds very much like that drive circuit that's in the Sub 37. And you can see here's another example. Like here's the basic waveforms that come up, but when I hit the keyboard reset button, then you'll see that all of the waveforms became Sub 37 waves.
Right. So and they also got zero start point as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I've got. But I can do things like instead of duo mode, it doesn't make sense for the Omnisphere. We have unison. And now the beat frequency is unison detune. But when you take it out of unison, now it's the oscillator 2 fine tuning.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and then same thing with like hard sync. We'll do, let's see, there we go. There it is, yeah. Turn hard sync on. And then same thing here with the, instead of the feedback, we're using that for the effects end. And watch what happens on the effects rack. When I kick it in, boom.
Right.
Now I've got a fully, nicely programmed effects thing.
Neat. That makes a lot. I mean, I can see it's the sort of thing that I bet hardware synth manufacturers wish they could do after they release the instrument.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And now I can take a look at the mod matrix, and you can see I touched one of the knobs, and it created this LFO1 to cutoff routing. So watch what happens when I touch the pitch knob there. Watch what happens. There we go. LFO1 to coarse.
So it just creates a mapping sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
So now I've got LFO.
So you're emulating the internal mod and bus routing of the instrument in your own system, right?
All the same mod routings and everything.
But you could also add your own afterwards on top of that.
Yeah.
Plenty down there.
Yeah, so you basically have all of those functions, and I did that just from a default patch.
Yeah.
So it works. So that means it works with any Omnisphere patch. It'll create all those routings.
Because it can see because it knows that when you said I've got this hardware attached,
yeah,
it
and the
knows
moment
what
you
to
touch
do.
it, it goes, oh, okay, I guess you want that. You know. So it's a lot more sophisticated than standard MIDI routing.
So okay, here's a question for you. I mean, obviously we're running this in a standalone mode.
Yeah.
If you're in plugin and you want to pass the keyboard through to the sequencer,
Yes.
maybe to external, it handles all that intelligently, right?
Yeah. With most of the DAWs will pass all of that data, and there's one DAW that doesn't pass NRPNs, and we're talking to them. So.
Well, hopefully NRPNs are going to start to be a thing of the past. They are if you're trying to think kind of musically, they are the least musical way of thinking, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
you have a full library of sounds that utilize the profile. And
there is so much bottom end in this room. That's amazing. Have you got a sub in here, or is it just
No.
a
But then you can do things you can't do on a like play. Yeah, so it's really it's a whole different experience using Omnisphere with this. And the neat thing too is that if for a lot of the people that aren't really into hardware synths yet, they're like, well, I don't want to spend like $2,000 or $4,000 on a hardware synth. We've got all of the boutiques working. So
oh, wow, okay.
So no matter what synth you have, you can access this. And so let's try the JX03. The JX3P is near and dear to my heart, having been my first project with Roland. So we've got the character of it, and now I've got and let's go select one of our old school brass sounds here.
So again, now you're just editing that from the front panel, and this is an Omnisphere sound, right?
Exactly. And I can change the envelopes and turn the chorus on and off.
And that's presumably the same sort of deal. It instantiates the effects in the rag and does.
Exactly. Yeah, and then in this case, it's like it's calling up the Boss chorus model that we have. That's very similar to the one in the jigs.
And you get more than 6 voices, right?
And you only get 4 voices on these.
Oh yeah, 4. That's right.
Yeah. So you got a 16 voice or 64 voice or whatever you want. So it's really nice. So each one of these sound different, even though it's all Omnisphere, because the layout kind of directs you into different kinds of sounds.
We've got a whole world of AB YouTube videos happening here, right?
Yeah, and again, it's the character. We're not trying to emulate the software.
And the user interface experience.
The user interface is the main thing, yeah. And so there's just sounds that lend itself. Like this is the JP08 one.
Good skills for actually being able to see what you're doing there.
You got like cross mod on this one. And there's some sophisticated stuff that's going on actually behind the scenes. So if I call up like the oscillator zoom, you'll see that the when I change the waveform, let's go to FM, because we're using FM to do that. When I change the waveform of the, let's see here, actually, it's this guy, there we go. There we go. Okay, so when I change the source waveform, it's also changing the modulator waveform of the FM.
Right.
So it's just like cross mod in the JP8.
Neat.
So like that's like so this obviously the faders are only about that big.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's a whole different.
And he hasn't even got any glasses on, folks. You saw it here first. That's great, and great, almost kind of blind programming skills there.
Yeah. You know it well. So I love the SH01. This is a really neat profile because it's obviously an incredible machine for bass. Having a DCO, it's a sub-octave kind of thing. So here's the interface. I've got my sub-oscillator, saw, square, pulse. But what's neat about this profile is that on the SH101, you only have one oscillator. So instead of mapping the tuning to fine tune, which isn't really that useful when you have a computer, I mapped it to detune.
So that just throws some more oscillator in there.
Yeah, throws them out, and so you get a nice detuning effect. So it's actually kind of like an enhanced. And it's neat too because like the internal sequencer works.
And is that triggering from the internal sequencer, or is that doing something in your?
Right. No, that's it sequencer.
Ah, okay, got you. That's awesome. What a great idea. And I guess, do you kind of wake up in the middle of the night and go, hey, I thought of another great synth we could do. Guys, get on that tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we've been working on this idea for a long time. I've been trying to kind of get it working, and it's been in partial stages. But I didn't want to really release the idea until we, like all the functions on the synth work. And so here's another fun one with the VP03, because this is like the VP330 kind of emulation thing. So we have all of those wavetables and sound sources in Omnisphere, and all those effects that are part of it too. So it's pretty neat to have like a control the turn the effects on and off, the vibrato. We'll bring in the strings.
Nice.
Yeah. So and again, it sounds totally different than the SH01 profile, but it's all Omnisphere. Because you can do all these things in Omnisphere. So the boutiques are a great way to go.
Omnisphere gateway drug.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. If you don't want to commit, to the expensive synths, you can kind of get started with that. You can put it on your desktop. And so let's take a look at the some of the DSI stuff. The Prophet 6 is one of my favorites. So on this one. Let's see, let's call up one of the Prophet 6 sounds here. This one's neat because I can, you have the high pass and the low pass filters.
I was starting to do filter mouth there. I don't know about you.
Filter mouth, right? Yeah, and then so I'll zero this out, and of course we can control the unison here. And there we go. And again, all the effects are working. So if I go to common and I'm changing the. There we go.
Right, so you get all of that stuff. It just auto.
Yeah, and everything is 1-to-1. So, it says phaser. It's a phaser.
Yeah.
And then here's the. The control. Or if I go to delay.
That must have had to have been a lot of kind of. What do you think? Which way I've done this sounds better?
Yeah.
That's a lot of evaluation in
Totally.
making these work, right?
Yeah, but yeah, being able to have that hands-on control. Okay, so so it's really, really powerful, and you get the idea of just how many different kinds of things that you can do, and each profile is completely different. So this is going to be so Omnisphere 2.5 is going into public beta, and that's going to start next week. And so there's the hardware library that it comes with of sounds, which is hundreds of new patches. And so that's going to bring the total number of sounds Omnisphere comes with to over 13,000. And,
Okay.
and then we've got all the new synthesis capabilities. So you have 4 layers. So that gives you, there's now 8 LFOs per patch, 12 envelopes per patch, and 48 patch points, mod routing.
Wow. Okay.
So it's really, really powerful. And then there's also a state variable filter that we've designed. It's brand new. It's like we designed that filter just for the OB6 profile.
Oh, neat.
So there's an SEM style
So
filter.
I mean, one's pushing the other. So it's quite. Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And so when do you think this is going to be finally? I mean, you say public beta. What's your sort of turnaround? Do you think for that?
So it should be available midsummer to the public, but any registered Omnisphere standard licensed Omnisphere 2 user can try the public beta, and that's going to be available next week. And the whole thing is free. So this is just a free
How
update
much?
from Spectrasonics. Yeah.
That's too expensive, Eric. You really should cut the
Yeah.
cost. Yeah.
Well.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so we're really excited about it because being able to bridge that gap between the software and hardware worlds, and to have it be kind of platform agnostic, where you can use a wide variety of different synths, and so yeah, Omnisphere 2.5 coming soon.
Thank you very much.